The second walks up there and points the gun up towards the side of the house.
Covering what the corporate media covers up.
Hey, it's JT Cestkowski with Status Coup. An untrained ICE agent waved a gun at a home that had a toddler in it in Joliet, Illinois. As I record this just happened yesterday on Memorial Day. That was May 25th. And this is part of an unsurprising pattern of these ICE agents just endangering the lives of so many and actually killing people in this country, of course. But let's play the exclusive video that we have for you here from Status Coup.
What are you doing?
It's going to play here a second time with the close-up, and you see the ICE agent there just raise the gun up at the house, at the door where this woman is standing there and filming. And we'll play it through one more time here in just a second so that you can get a sense for the full scope of exactly what was happening there. But first, a little bit of context. ICE agents were going after someone, allegedly, from what I have been told from people there on the ground, is that they did have a warrant. They were going after somebody. They jumped the fence to get into this yard that you saw them in there. Again, potential there for trespassing, depending on exactly what the warrant was. And while I've been told that it's a warrant, it's not clear to me if that means it's a judicial warrant or an administrative warrant. An administrative warrant has no weight of the court behind it. It is just the Department of Homeland Security saying, we can do whatever we want because we say so. They're just making up that authority out of whole cloth, whereas a judicial warrant would actually be signed by a judge and say this person has a warrant issued from the courts for whether that be deportation or to appear in front of the courts for whatever reason. And there you see immigration agents going into that yard, jumping a fence, I'm told, to be able to do it. And inside that home, in addition to the woman filming, was at least one other adult and then a toddler, I have been told. So agents not probably aware of that fact, if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Even in the most generous of interpretations, they're just pointing a gun at a home when, from what I have been told, they have not been threatened themselves. This is just untrained agents whose blood is up. So let's watch this clip one more time just to be able to get the full scope again here, now that you have that context of what happened here. So you see the agents there outside the home pacing around, one acting fairly calm.
What are you doing?
The second walks up there and points the gun up towards the side of the house. And you can see that that agent has their face covered in a mask, as has become typical in now so many of these cases. And I can tell you from being on the ground there, this is Joliet, Illinois, which is just outside of Chicago. We were on the ground last fall in Chicago for 2 months continuously. Myself and John Farina there reporting on the ground what was happening in Chicago during Operation Midway Blitz, the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. And what I can tell you from just being on the ground there, what I saw over and over again, was the lack of training that ICE and Border Patrol agents seemingly had. One, just generally in order to be able to carry out their jobs, and then two, how to respond to potential situations that could escalate. And their one tactic that they seem to employ over and over again was just to escalate, not try to ever de-escalate a situation, was just to escalate, just to reach for the gun, right? As we saw in the case of Marimar Martinez, who was shot 5 times and thankfully survived an encounter with Border Patrol in Chicago back in October, and we were on the ground for that case. We also saw the same thing with guns up in Minneapolis, where we were on the ground for 2 months. And if this kind of on the ground perspective and reporting is important to you, please go to statuscoup.com/join, where you can support us for as low as $5 a month. We saw them do it with guns, and we saw them do it with lesser forms, quote unquote, less lethal forms of weapons that they have, whether it be reaching for tear gas canisters. And I cannot tell you how many times myself and John Farina now have been tear gassed by the Department of Homeland Security. John Farina, as I record this right now, is outside of Delaney Hall ICE Detention Center, a concentration camp in Newark, New Jersey, where the people being held inside that concentration camp are holding a labor and hunger strike inside in protest of the conditions inside. in support of them outside, which have led to ICE agents again just escalating with the people outside, including shooting a woman with a rubber bullet. And this on top of them using tear gas, as John has reported to us, in addition to them using pepper spray and the like. And in fact, one woman who was shot by a rubber bullet actually did an interview with our own Jordan Sheridan. This is what she had to say.
And ICE were just very angry, and they took the rubber gun and they shot me with it.
That happened today?
Yeah, so they shot me with their rubber gun that was on their, like, raffle on their truck, their big truck.
Their big tank?
Yeah, so they actually did shoot me with it. It was kind of, it was kind of more red. I had them spray pepper spray in my eye. I had the nurses rinse my eye out. I was pushed today. They had the crowd bars like pushing against people's body. They have shot that rubber bullet or whatever it's called. They did shoot me with it. Unnecessary. For what?
For what? Exactly. You can see there behind her the crowd of people who were out there. Some had megaphones. They were standing around, milling about. I saw a couple of people, the most energy they seemed to exhibit was just jumping up and down a little bit. But they're just out there chanting, exercising their First Amendment rights to protest, and they're being met with force by the Trump administration. That is what we have seen outplay in all of these clips. And we are there being the leading on the ground outlet. We used to say leading on the ground independent outlet, but I think that I can safely say that when it comes to ICE and Border Patrol and the immigration crackdown in this country, that at this point I can say that we are the leading on the ground outlet. Thankfully, I have now seen some more coverage of Delaney Hall from national outlets. But before this, it was just us covering these stories in so many different instances. We were the ones living on the ground in Chicago. We were the ones living on the ground in Minneapolis before Alex Preddy and Renee Good were shot and killed. And then all of the national media piled in. We were showing that Minneapolis, that Chicago, that these were powder kegs where the federal government had ramped up the pressure to the point that it threatened to boil over into some kind of widespread, real destructive potential, real harmful potential in those communities, as it did, as people were shot and unfortunately some people were killed. If you want to, again, support that on-the-ground reporting, please go to statuscoup.com/join. It is what allows us to remain truly editorially independent. We don't take a dime of corporate sponsorship, and it allows me to speak directly to you, our audience, and for you to be sure that what is coming out of my mouth is not influenced by any corporate sponsors.